Vanasek.
I would like to add an in-camera item at the end.
That was, no,
Oh.
we're
We're
doing
not
that.
on that agenda yet.
Not that
Oh,
one.
adoption of.
No, we're doing the hearing part.
This one here, Ryan.
That's one.
Oh, we're doing the one, oh, okay.
You got that?
Got it, okay.
Actually, we have two meetings starting at 7.
Okay.
I would like to add something.
Right at this point in time, we are adopting the agenda for the land use bylaw, and then we'll go on to our regular agenda.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. So adoption of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Now, as I put my glasses on, you'll have to bear with me. 2.0 of our agenda, 2.1 is the purpose of the meeting. Pursuant to sections 7, 8, 230, 606, and 6921E of the Municipal Government Act, Chapter M26, revised statutes of Alberta 2000 as amended, the purpose of the public hearing was to discuss proposed bylaw 05-2015 for the town of High Prairie in the province of Alberta, being the land use bylaw. Notice of public hearing 2.2. On the 14th day of April 2015, Council gave first reading of bylaw 05215, the land use bylaw. On April 15th, 2015, notices were sent out to property owners regarding the zoning changes, and notices were sent out to the South Peace News and radio station regarding the open house that was scheduled for May 2nd, 2015, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On May 7th, 2015, notices were sent out to South Peace News and radio station regarding the public hearing, the second reading, and possibly the third reading that is scheduled for May 26th, 2015 regular meeting of council. That being said, it's at this time that I'll ask from the floor for the proposed bylaw 05215. Are there any written presentations or for or against this bylaw? And again, I'll ask from the floor if there are any written presentations for or against the proposed bylaw 05-2015. And for the third time and final time, are there any presentations, written submissions against the proposed bylaw 05-2015? Seeing none. Presentations from the floor. Are there any presentations from the floor for or against the proposed bylaw 05-2015? Are there any presentations from the floor for land use bylaws 05-2015? And for the third and final time, are there any presentations from the floor for the land use bylaw 05-2015? Seeing none. We are now into pursuant to the sections 78230, 606. Oh, wait a minute. And this is where we go, oops, he's new. And you can help me out here, CAO.
He needs to ask for an adjournment now.
An adjournment?
Adjournment, yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, well, here it is. Thank you. There were no written presentations or, for or against the proposed bylaw 05-2015. I've asked if there were presentations from the floor for the proposed bylaw 05-2015. And I need a counselor to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make them.
Counselor Panasic. Moved by Counselor Panasic that the public hearing be adjourned at 7:04 p.m. And now we move into our regularly scheduled meeting. And at 7:05, we call this meeting to order. And 1B, adoption for the agenda. And I can go back to you again.
All right, I'm ready. Just, I wanted to add an in-camera item on personnel.
Urgent?
It is.
Any others? Councillor Tanaka?
I would like to add to the agenda discussion on Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program application due June 17th, so it is time sensitive because it will be before our next council meeting.
Do we want to put that under new business then?
Sure.
What was it again, Donna?
Pardon me?
What was it again?
Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program.
And any other additions?
Got the agenda back.
Yeah. Any others? We do have the addendum from the staff CEO written report and the action list. And that was brought in at the last moment. That'll help us carry on with our action list. So we'll put that under administration.
Wouldn't it be 5E, staff and CEO?
We can do that. Motion to accept the agenda as proposed.
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And at this time, 2A, any scheduled delegations? I don't believe we have any. So we have, next on 2B, our public delegations. And anybody wishing to speak to the floor has 5 minutes to speak to council. And now is your chance to put your hand up.
Why is everybody looking at me?
I wasn't looking at you. It's not always about you. Please step forward. Oh, the lady behind you.
Yeah, I'm just presenting the street festival.
Oh, exciting. Yeah, you have the floor.
Okay. I'm looking for help in financial wise.
Your name is?
My name is Bonnie Neufeld. I do have posters out in my car. I forgot to bring them. And I do have a letter also. But I'm in need of volunteers and money to run the program, which is happening next Saturday, June 6th, from 3 to 8 p.m. for the Sports Palace and the County Recreation Building. It's mainly a kid-orientated thing. I don't know why they call it a street festival when it should actually be called a children's festival. So the chamber will have to change the name, I think.
The original concept was for outside, right? And you guys
Yeah.
just moved it inside.
Yeah, but you can't trust the weather, so it has to be.
Yeah. What time does it start?
3 p.m. Saturday, and it goes till 8 p.m. So I also need help with setup and to clean up after the show's over. And if there's any vendors that want to come along and help out, like food vendors or kid vendors, talk to me.
And what's your number that you can be reached at?
My house number is 780-523-2424. My cell is 780-507-6999. 0548. And my email address is bonnieneufeld@ymail.com. And I am on Facebook under Bonita Neufeld. Okay.
How's the volunteers been going so far?
I have a few, and they'll probably just come and show up and help, and I'll just place them where, cause I do have some that's already put in places, so then, you know, you give them a break so that they can wander around and get a hot dog or a burger that we are charging for, like it's $1 for a hot dog and $1 for a drink and $2 for a burger. And that's put on, the Friesen Brothers are supplying the food, fire department is taking care of the barbecue, but other vendors are welcome to come in too. So we have a little bit of variety.
As for funds and donations, that's something that council would have to discuss further. And we do have a policy for grants and those types of things, and that deadline's long past. So that might make it difficult.
Right.
But certainly we'll do everything we can to help promote, and if there's anybody
Okay.
that's available to help volunteer, we'll certainly do our best to.
So would you like a poster and the letter, or?
Please.
Okay.
Love it, and
Okay.
put it up in town hall for sure.
Okay, I will get that for you.
Put
It's
it up
just
on the
out
board
in
as
the car.
well. Yeah.
I was gonna bring it in.
Yeah, that's perfect, and you could give it to Nancy, and she can make sure it gets put up to wherever she thinks is
Okay.
best.
Perfect.
All right, thank you very much, Bonnie.
Are we able to put that on an electronic sign?
I think so.
Yeah,
No, it's a nonprofit, yeah. So, yeah, we probably put it up on the sign, the electronic sign as well,
Great.
so.
Fantastic.
Are there any other public delegations? Seeing none. We move on to the protective services. It's straight to public works. And 2D, one is Public Works, page 3 of the agenda. And Mr. Walker, you, sir, have the floor as soon as we get this put forward. Councilor Carrier.
Make a motion that council receive the May 2015 Public Works Report for information.
All those in favor?
I got some
gotta
questions.
vote.
We gotta talk about it first. Mr. Walker, you have the floor now.
As you can see in the report, that the construction season, and as you can see around town, construction season has hit us in full force. A lot of the construction is slated to be done by mid-July. So I'll entertain any questions in regards to my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Carrier, I know you got a few.
I was going through the report and I had a few questions, and thank you, Mr. Walker, for taking my phone call to answer them for me. A few of the concerns I had was the ongoing cleaning of the recycling area. I had brought forth maybe if we could do something in the way of putting up cameras to deter people from leaving their trash around so that Public Works wouldn't be tied down cleaning that area up. But as Mr. Walker had mentioned to me on the phone, it's not too much of an issue. It's just he had to add it to his report. Another question I had was actually was a big thanks from a lot of the farmers coming into the seed plant. They are really appreciative of the gravel and stuff that you spread by the seed plant. It's made their life a lot easier getting to us. And the last thing I had was regular cleaning of the skateboard park. I was concerned that maybe this should be part of the sports complex society that raised funds for it. So again, because it's something that they had really wanted for the town, and then the funds were raised, it was just passed over to the town, and now we're busy looking after it. I was kind of hoping that maybe they could look after it, but again, Mr. Walker was very helpful. We do have a contractor that would be taking care of all that stuff, so again, thank you for taking the time to answer my calls.
And I'll just elaborate on that. It's the contract for the Civic Square, but during the month of April, we have to clean up because the contract does not exist in the month of April.
Any other questions Councillor Panasic.
All right, I was looking here, you said it's completed several customer service requests and invoice for work. What kind of work are we doing?
Anything from, patching, sweeping, those types of things, parking lots,
Sent our back truck to Juice
Juicard for the MD on Monday, just those types of things that, the equipment isn't readily available for the private, them to hire private contractors.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was
And we're
just-
generating revenue that way.
Okay. And just one other thing, we're noticing that you had a meeting with Waste Management on concerns regarding garbage pickup, and I noticed that this week they weren't on their regular pickup day again.
No, they were here, they worked late yesterday, the truck broke down on the way here,
Oh,
and they worked late.
They
picked
come
up-
in this morning and finish off
Yeah.
our,
Yeah, I just know
Yeah.
that they usually pick up on Monday and
Yeah.
they weren't there
No, they were
Monday, so
broke
it
down.
was like,
We
oh.
did have a meeting with the regional boss, and, he's promised us that, things will get better.
All right. That was all I had.
I'm just curious if there's any more developments with the Elks, campground over there.
I just heard today that Mr. Murdoch is putting up a sign out there to start attracting, campers to go there. We've changed the hot water tanks that were broken in the bathroom facility, and we mowed the grass out there. Partially, we haven't finished out there, but yeah, it seems as if he is going. We also met with the Inilla Fire Department, that if they feel it's too late in the year for them to take over, but if, the Elks don't, they would step in and operate it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Councillor Rose.
Just one thing about billing, and I know that isn't necessarily your department, but when we have faulty equipment, and this has been brought to my attention now twice, when we have like faulty meters that don't register properly, and we bill people, and the bills actually say actuals, so the people are budgeting based on the fact that their bills are an actual reading, and then all of a sudden we realize that our equipment's wrong and not reading properly, and we fix it, and then we bill them for, I had one situation, I think it was last year, where it was 6 months of water that they had, we just basically said, oops, we didn't charge you, you used it, but we didn't charge you, and it's just happened again, I think to quite a few people here recently, where some things have gotten fixed. I mean, I understand that that's sort of our comment to the public is that it was their usage, but they received 10 months of bills that said actual, and most people sort of budget on a monthly basis, and are we causing undue hardship? And what's sort of our policy to just sort of say, oops, here's your bill that's normally 100 and now it's 600?
We do have a policy that after 3 months, we're supposed to be notified from from utilities clerk that we are to get a reading. I know the situation you're talking about. Brian has informed me of the situation that has come to light, and I just look at it, if the meter is registered and you've used the consumption, it's the same as ATCO would do or any other utility company would do. They would still charge you for the usage of water.
There would be no fault on the air of the fact that we didn't give any notice.
The actual equipment is still working, it's just the remote wasn't working. So they couldn't get access to the meter. So, and again, that would be the last time it happened, they came to council, and it would be council discretion either to make them pay the bill or give them some relief on the bill. We can't make that, as administration, we can't make that decision.
we've also met with the utility clerk and told her to start estimating a little bit higher so that it will click on the homeowner to our commercial property owner that there is something going on with the reading. If you get a lower reading, you're not gonna say nothing, but all of a sudden, if you just notice it's high, then it's gonna click into you.
Well, you know, in one of the cases, that was the last year when it was brought to my attention where it was a property owner that owned 6 different properties in town. And he just didn't pay that close of attention. And then bang, all of a sudden he paid attention when the bills went from regularly 600 or whatever to 2,000 because they backed up. And he ended up having to put that cost onto the tenants, and it became quite a hardship for the tenants. I think that we should consider looking at that policy. I don't know that we can go back to people after 10 months of us making a mistake. Like you're saying, it was our equipment that caused sort of the error. I mean, I get that we're using it, but I mean, I think that ultimately people are budgeting their monthly costs, and they're looking at their bills and saying, oh good, that one's paid. They're not putting away extra money just in case we made a mistake.
And that's why we've asked the utility clerk to estimate high, because when you get a high water bill, it usually gets your attention. A lot of times it is the damage to the remote box that is causing the problem. It's not anything to do with equipment failure. Sometimes it's the actual homeowners that damage the remote box, or vandalism against the side of the house, or something like that. That's why we've met with the utility clerk, and we've asked her to make sure that we're aware of these things so that we can get them repaired.
So my question, why is it not showing estimated as opposed to actual on the bill that they get?
I can't answer that question, Brian. I don't do billing.
Because that would seem to be, you know, if it's if you don't have a good reading, just tell them this is an estimated, and then at the end that they're not thinking this is actual.
Then we at least have justification for sending another bill if it's out of whack. But it's hard to tell people that here's your actual bill for 10 months and then say, oops, here's your actual bill for 10 months. You know, and it's a substantial increase. So that was my concern as to how we're sort of handling that,
Yeah.
and if there was a policy in place, because I imagine it's happened in the past as well, right?
There is a policy in place. I know there is.
I just thought it was for like 3 months. I
And
didn't
after
realize we could go back
3
for as
months,
long.
we're supposed to get a physical read from the meter if the problem is still, if it's estimated for 3 months. I can't answer the question as to why it said actual on that bill.
And
That would
if
be
it
something.
was, I'm just going back, if we're supposed to go and read every 3 months, how did it go to 6 months in these cases?
That's what I can't answer. That's why we've talked to the utility clerk.
Okay.
So that's why we've asked her to estimate high, instead of estimating, I think she was estimating 25 cubes.
Yeah.
Estimate 50, and that gets people's attention real quick and allows you into their homes to fix the problem.
But we're not going into the homes every 3 months is the problem?
No, we don't. We got a remote system
Yeah.
where we just plug into the wall, and if that wire gets cut, then they can't get a read.
Okay, but we're supposed to be going in every 3 months if there's a problem with the
If there's a problem, we're supposed to physically go in, and
At
that's what the
least.
policy states.
Yeah.
And in that case, if it was an actual bill, instead of it saying estimate on it,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have showed up in anywhere as being 3 months, right? So
Like
I,
there needs to be a safeguard in place to sort of deal with this problem, because it says actual, right, which is unfortunate.
we've talked to the utility clerk, and we're gonna try our best to rectify it whatever way we can so that this doesn't happen again.
I actually think we should consider, and I know this is just topic for conversation right now, but maybe we should consider a policy that doesn't allow a period beyond 3 months, you know, for people that are budgeting and that are getting a bill that they assume is an actual bill. If it is our mistake somehow because of our equipment, whether it's the remote or I guess if we determine it's the fault of the homeowner because they've cut something, you know, then that can be a specific case. But if it is actually our responsibility, then maybe there should only be a period of time that we can go back, and at some point we just have to sort of eat the costs.
That would be a council decision.
Something you put together into an RFP and bring it forward.
Well, in theory, it should never happen.
I didn't realize it was.
Any other questions? Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Council carries motion. Councilor Zanaka.
I make a motion to receive the timeline from Nelson Sand and Gravel for the construction of 50th Avenue for information.
Discussion.
I'd like to thank administration for giving us this information so we can answer the public's questions when they come to us, wondering how soon things will be done, so thank you very much.
Excited that it's moving forward. Councillor Tanaka.
I make a motion that council approve the closure of 51st Avenue from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on June 19th, 2015, so the Native Friendship Center can host their Aboriginal Day
You
celebration.
gotta vote on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
well,
perfect.
and
You
other-
jumped the gun ever so
I
slightly,
thought we
but
did.
that's,
comments too.
so, that being said, any discussion on this?
Yeah, I just was wondering if these are going up on the website, like, construction schedule, so people in the town have access
We've,
to it?
forwarded them to Ruby to put them on there.
Okay.
They're on.
Perfect. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Councillor Tanaka.
That council approve the closure of 51st Avenue from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on June 19th, 2015, so the Native Friendship Center can host their Aboriginal Day celebration.
Discussion. Councillor Carey.
Going through it, I was very pleased that the Native Friendship Center went through all the businesses, got their signatures and approval, so they've done their homework. I think it'll be a great event.
Any further discussion? Councillor Tanaka.
I see there is a note here from the fire chief as well. I'm hopefully maybe by that time the fire bans will be off, but if it's not, I hope they adhere to that.
They won't have any other choice but to adhere to it, or they'll be paying a fine and having a fire truck put out the fire. Thank you. Any other discussion?
So just on this, how do they're worried about, they're gonna put it in the middle of the road with a campfire, if it's a big bonfire and gets hot, what's gonna happen to the
It's in
actual?
a raised,
Oh, it's in a
fire
raised
pit.
fire pit?
that's what Ken told me there.
Okay, is there anything on with asphalt that hot, it's gonna give away. But raised one makes sense. Okay.
Mr. Walker.
I'm just wondering, for council's protection, that maybe they should add something to the motion, that if any damages occur from the fire pit, that the Friendship Center would be responsible for the repairs. Just a suggestion.
Councillor Rose, thank you, Mr. Walker.
Have they had fires on the street before? Like, is this could potentially a cause for concern, like even if it's raised, it can still,
If the
throw enough
heat,
heat?
if it throws enough heat, it can separate the oils and the gravel and asphalt. It'd have to get very, very hot, but just for, the protection of the town, it might be something to add to the motion. And again, just a respectful suggestion.
It does say in Ken's letter, it will be your responsibility to ensure the street is not damaged in any way.
Yeah, but just for the motion's sake.
Okay. I'll amend my motion to include that, the Native Friendship Center will be held completely and solely responsible for any damages that are created if they have a fire because of ashes, wood chips, etc.
Heat.
Any damage caused to town property because of the fire?
Because of the fire.
Would be your
The
responsibility.
bonfire, whatever you want to terminology.
And then we'll just get our clerks to read it back to us.
Got the new motion, Nancy?
Pens are writing furiously.
They are. Anybody got any jokes? Oh, damn.
Yes.
Strictly for our folks at home.
Yeah.
Nobody will see.
Oh, I watch it.
Did you want to keep
the same beginning of the motion, just add.
Yes.
So that council approved the closure of 51st Ave from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on June 19, 2015, so the Native Friendship Center can host their Aboriginal Day celebration. Also, that the Native Friendship Center will be held completely and solely responsible for any damage done to town-owned property done by heat.
Done by heat?
Caused by the fire.
By the
Heat.
fire.
Caused by
You
the
could say
fire.
caused by the
Caused
heat.
by.
Sounds great. How do you do that?
That
Yeah.
work. I'll accept it.
That being said, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All the question, there it is. Thank you. And moving right along to the 51st Street construction, page 15 of your agenda, Councillor Carrier.
I make a motion that council approve the 51st Avenue project for a cost of $255,240 and amend the capital budget for this project from $242,884 by $12,356 to the total of $255,240 and authorize Mayor Cox and administration to execute the proposal from E-Construction.
Discussion. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, this is just a contingency, right? That was what I read in here.
No, the actual proposal is $230,240, but I would like to have a little bit of contingency money in case we run into some unforeseens of $25,000. So if we don't run into anything that we have to do, it would end up coming in below the original estimate. But with the contingency, we're not planning on spending that, but you never know. So,
Yeah, so
it's
it's
just
a
contingency
contingency.
money, yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And 3A, minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. 3A, minutes. Councillor Danaka.
I make a motion that council approve the minutes from May the 12th, 2015 special meeting of council as presented.
That's on page 20 of your package. Discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. 3A2. Councillor Quick Draw McGraw, holy. Councillor Danaka again.
I move that council approve the minutes from May 12th, 2015 regular meeting of council as presented.
Discussions, questions, concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. And 3A, Councillor Carrier.
Make a motion that council approve the minutes from the May 6th, 2015 special meeting of council as presented.
Discussions, concerns, Councillor Knassett.
They, on the motion number 210-15, moved by Councillor Empter, the lawyers actually gave another motion that they thought would be better in our minutes. And the motion reads, Councillor Empter moves that council direct the mayor to discuss with legal counsel the mutual conclusion the existing CAO's employment contract pursuant to a memorandum of agreement that provides the CAO with 12 months severance. So it's a little bit different. Well, not different. It's just different wording from what I can get out of it. I don't know why. We might as well go with the lawyer's recommendation.
And it was the lawyer's wording that we used, in fact, correct?
No.
No.
Not in
No,
this
the
motion,
original
it's here.
motion made by Councillor Empter was what was written in here,
Mm-hmm.
but we're saying that we should change the motion so it's recorded in a manner that's what the lawyers would rather see it say. I'm not sure of the difference, but
Can you change
yeah, this document as
Can
it's,
you change minutes? Like, I don't think you
the
can.
minutes are the minutes, and you can't.
Absolutely you can until they're approved. Once they're approved, you can't change them.
Right.
But this motion itself, in order for us to change the wording of that motion, if you're correct, would require Councillor Enter to approve or not.
It's a
It's his
council
motion.
motion. It's a council motion, it's not a person's motion. It's council that made the motion.
Correct.
It was just moved by a person.
Correct. If this is if this is the motion that in fact council passed, and it's in the minutes, that's fine to stay the way it is, and if we need to,
The minutes haven't been adopted though, so they can be amended.
so we can
You can
change it.
rescind the motion and make it a new motion.
Okay, so that's all we need to look at doing then. So it needs to be in the form of a motion.
Okay. I would make, I guess the first motion would be to rescind the original motion, number 210-15. That it moved by Council Hunter that council direct the mayor to request legal counsel to prepare a new contract with the CAO containing 12-month severance clause. So I'd like to move to rescind that.
Discussion.
I'll withdraw my motion that's on the floor so we can deal with this.
Okay.
Do we have to deal with the fact that that was a recorded vote when that motion was put in place in the first place?
Good question.
It's just something about, I think that if we're going to I'm not comfortable in changing something that's been passed and
That is what
What's
they
it
said.
We can leave
Yeah.
it for the next meeting, and then get some further legal advice.
We can just call in, municipal affairs, and they'll be able
Yep.
to tell us what the correct procedure is for that, because it was a recorded vote, which may or may not have anything to do with it, but
It doesn't really change the motion, it just clarifies the motion, is what the lawyer's one does.
and I don't disagree.
Mr. Chair, if I could be helpful, according to our procedural bylaw, we can postpone these minutes to the next general meeting
Yep.
and therefore be able to ask questions on how to deal with this matter.
That'd be the best thing to do. So, are you able to that?
I'll make a motion then, I'll withdraw my last motion and make a motion that we postpone approving these minutes until the next meeting.
Do you want to expand that as to why we're not
And
approving?
ask administration to get some advice on changing the motion that was made.
To
I feel
satisfy
better
our
with
legal
that.
counsel.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And to the new business, 5.0, Canada's 150th Community Infrastructure Program, time sensitive, June 17th, I believe. And this is your show, Councilor Demack.
This has just come down, and we have until June 17th. It's part of the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure. Basically, community centers, cultural centers, parks, recreational trails, museums, libraries, rec facilities, gymnasiums, swimming pools, sports fields, tennis, basketball. There's a whole list of stuff that meet the criteria of what you can apply for. It ranges from the amount of funding being requested, cannot exceed 50% of the total cost of a project up to a maximum of 500,000. I thought maybe this could be something that would cover possibly the painting of the museum. It could also be for the pool, getting stuff done at the pool. The problem with having either the museum or the library or the rec board apply, it has to be done by the group that directly owns the assets, and that's the town. So, I would like to make a motion that administration, look through this, contact the museum, the library, the pool, and see which ones will actually qualify, and maybe send the applications in to see if we can get some funding for some of the projects that are part of this. And I will give this to you. And I believe it's June 17th, I think, is when they have to be in by.
I'm not sure that, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I'm not sure we can make a motion to direct staff to Council Carey.
I believe she's directing our CAO to investigate.
Oh, did you say CA? Oh,
I said administration.
oh, pardon me. Okay.
Okay.
Then we can. Yes, Mr. Walker.
I just received that today as well.
Okay.
I did have a brief look at it and saw the dates that, and they are looking for legacy projects.
Yes.
For the 150 year of Canada, so we'll under Brian's direction, we'll talk to you.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Well, don't we have to vote?
We
have
do.
to vote on that.
So,
We need to vote on that motion.
and so the motion is on the floor that administration might look into this. All those in favor? Carried. Which brings us to 5B, which is on page 33 of your package, the second and third reading for the land use bylaw.
I'll make the motion that council gives second reading to land use bylaw 05-2015 on this, the 26th day of May 2015.
Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Should we maybe hear from, like I asked informally how the public meeting went and stuff. I don't know, you guys might know, I missed the last
Nobody
meeting.
showed up.
Nobody showed.
But,
No one showed up.
I showed up on the open house.
Yeah.
I came on the Saturday
Vicky Cal,
for about half an hour.
Oh, okay.
And her land, but district didn't change, so she stopped to visit anyway, so.
Yeah, and I also understand from our conversation, there wasn't been any other concerns been raised since, so I think we're safe to go.
There was a couple, but I basically received calls from business people that were getting changed, and they were worried, they thought their taxes were gonna go up. That's what they were worried about. And I said the changing of land use district had nothing to do with that, so.
Any further discussion? Council Carey.
I believe Sir Ebbett had concerns about vehicles being parked in the Legion parking lot, but unfortunately, it looks like he left, so
Yes, he does, I can confirm.
I was hoping he would actually come forward to speak to those, but
One of his concerns was trying to contact and find out who was in charge of CRC right now. Mr. Manasseh was able to give him that information as well. So, or Vern.
Vern did.
Vern did.
Right.
Yes.
I am involved with CRC also. When I was over there last night, Verna Oak and Dan came out and asked if the vehicles could be moved off of that parking spot on this coming Thursday for their presentation.
Great.
So I told them that I would tell Denise Willier and she will take care of that.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. far as I know, that was the only concern thus far. So I'm sure that they'll be able to resolve that, being good neighbors and all that stuff. Yes, Councillor Lewis.
Besides the open house, did we get any more calls from businesses? I got a call from a couple different groups of people that had changes in their zoning, and we were able to sort of, you know, satisfy their
I answered
concerns.
I answered any questions that I had received, probably 3.
Great.
And the property owners were happy with what information I gave.
Good.
All right, any other discussion, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. And Council Carrier.
Make a motion that council give third and final reading to land use bylaw 05/2015 on this 26th day of May 2015.
Last and final, any discussions, anything new? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And that moves us on to the Citizen Monument nominations. Councillor Rose.
To make a motion that council direct administration to develop a policy that clearly defines the criteria and specification of a citizen monument nomination, and to postpone the advertising of the 2015 nomination request until that policy is passed.
Wow. Any discussion?
In talking with the mayor last year, we held this ceremony at the time of the stampede, and she found it to be very rushed. So I think we should be like the MD and pick an alternate date so that people can be well warned in advance and that are going to be nominated on here and put on and accepted, and then council can pick that date.
And I just think further to what why I said that motion, last year we did discuss that we would put a policy in place and that we would have criteria because we didn't have criteria, and that sort of just went by the wayside. So I think until we have that policy in place, we should just put this on hold and then work on finding time to put that policy in place.
Perfect. Did you want any help from council? Do you want to have a committee set up so that?
No, I'll
Do
start
some research.
doing a policy up for, right back, probably for the meeting at the end of June.
Great.
At the last, when we had this, when we were deciding this last year, we were also discussing the, of removing it completely from council. Having a citizens committee that would make that decision, totally removing it from council. And I really like that idea, then it's chosen by them as opposed to us.
That could be part of the policy, right? So I think that first stop the advertising of it.
Yes.
Because we still don't have a criteria in
Yep.
place.
Yep.
Take the pressure off of you guys, off of everybody until we know what is the criteria that we're looking for. And I'm sure that there's policies in place with other organizations and other communities that we can take a look at.
Yeah, I noticed the MD had their wall of fame, or I can't remember how they worded it, but same thing. So they must have a policy too, and that'd be a place to start.
Perfect. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
It's not anything like that one.
And page 36 of our agenda is CAO recruitment. Mr. Martinson, how's that going? We need a
Motion.
Yeah. Council Carrier.
Make a motion that council directs administration to advertise in a RFP, request for proposal, to qualified individuals or companies who can provide services in recruiting a new CAO for the town of High Prairie.
Discussion. Councilor.
I don't really like this idea at all. I don't like being forced into using a headhunter. I mean, I know that we put that policy in place, and I know that was a Johns Rood report recommendation. But since then, I've done a a little bit of digging with other municipalities, including the county, and not everybody's had good luck with this process. And part of the problem with the process is that this is a consulting firm. A headhunting company is a consulting firm, and Johns Root is a consulting firm, and it seems to be like there's a lot of consultants out there telling us what to do. And ultimately, those that believe, and again, these are just opinions, but that have used the services, that often the CAOs that are recruited from headhunters are CAOs that jump from community to community, because in order to keep the headhunters sort of busy, they don't need CAOs that come into a community and stay for 10 years. They need CAOs that come and leave fairly quickly, and then they can place them somewhere else. The county said that they had used 2 different headhunters and got basically the same list of people that they just sort of shuffle within other municipalities. I mean, that's just one concern, and that doesn't necessarily have to be what we would be faced with, but it does sound like there are some. It's not a perfect system, and it costs a lot of money. So I mean, I just don't think that we should just jump right into that. We had discussion last council meeting of an interim CAO that didn't pan out because he accepted a position somewhere else. We have had another discussion with the county where they would entertain us asking for some sort of help and some sort of support internally, as well as they would give us direction on the process of hiring a CAO, and they've had some experience at it themselves. The 2 CAOs that they feel that they had the most difficult time with and that were the most problematic came from headhunters. That's just their experience. That was just so I just would like us to be cautious about just hiring yet one more consulting firm. I know it's, like I say, I know it's our policy, but I think that maybe we should consider what options are available.
Any other discussion?
I do know that when you talked about, as you call them, headhunters, for the senior management positions, depending on what the salary is if it's a CAO, depending on what the salary is that you're going to pay that CAO, usually these headhunter people take 20% of, so you could be looking at, 25 to 30,000 for them to do, what they do. I don't know, I honestly don't know what our next move will be. Can Municipal Affairs offer us any guidance on what the best way to do this is?
The only thing I haven't talked to Municipal Affairs regarding this matter is just that we have the policy in place, and as administration, I have to bring the policy forward to you guys. So
the problem. I would not want to be a CEO for nothing. It is a graveyard of ex-CAOs out there, and usually it's because council lets them go. Not necessarily because they were a bad CEO, because they were moving in a different direction. Council didn't like how they wanted to do things, i.e. by the book. So it's not always because the CAOs are hired on by headhunters and they're expecting them to be a short term. It's the nature of the business of councils of the day choose to get rid of that CAO, thinking that there's got to be something better out there. And for whatever. But I don't think the headhunting companies bring on CAOs for a town or a city or county with the belief that that's going to be a short term, and they're going to come back again and get another one 2 years down the road because they're going to fire them, and that's how they keep their money going. So they give second rate. That's how I'm sort of getting.
It was just some opinions.
But I think that they do offer a service in that they know what we're looking for, because we've given them sort of our parameters of what we're looking for, and they have a list and contacts and resources to find the best suitable person out there, hopefully for us. I'm not in favor of having the county, with all due respect to the county, helping run the town. It's Samsung asking Apple, we don't have a CAO, can you come over and help us? Bad business plan. And I do believe that would be exactly the same thing. It would be bad business for us to have them, especially if we're looking for money from them, going to them, and we have business arrangements and partnerships. It's not appropriate for us to get them involved. Councillor Rose and then Mac.
Except for to answer Councillor Danaka's question, Municipal Affairs recommended that action. So I called Municipal Affairs twice about what should be our next steps and explained our situation. And they said by all means that if you had a good relationship with your county and an offer for them to offer you some support, that would be what they would wholeheartedly recommend for us going forward. So we weren't forced into a situation where we rushed into spending money on a consultant or rushed into putting somebody in place that we weren't ready or comfortable to put in place. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but Municipal Affairs says this isn't a corporation like Samsung, right? This is a municipality and they're run differently, and the county should be viewed, in their opinion, as part of us, because they are, the people that live in the county live in town too. Shop in town, work in town. They're not, it's not, we're trying to make them the enemy and they're not.
I'm not saying they're the enemy at
Well,
all.
it kind of sounds
I
like
said
when-
with all due respect.
We're getting off a topic here, because we're looking at whether or not to use a headhunter, and now we're talking about what we wanna use as an interim CEO. So those are two very different questions, and I think we can go around and around, so let's maybe answer one and then we'll go to the next one.
The only thing is it comes back to this as if we don't have very many other options. So we haven't been presented with any other options besides use a headhunter, right? So I guess that's where the conversation about the county comes in, because that's another opportunity for interim support, which could help us with hiring a CAO.
Councillor Danaka and then Councillor Carey.
The motion is to advertise in an RFP. We're just advertising. We're not saying, oh, okay, we're gonna go with these people. We're just looking to see what's out there. That's the motion right now. We're not saying, okay, we're gonna go with, we're gonna request for a proposal and we're gonna choose somebody. Let's just see what's out there. Like, let's see what somebody's gonna offer. And
Just a quick question to you though, Donna. Are we seeing, where we're just putting a request for somebody to become a consultant, not for a CAO, right? That's all that this is. So
yes.
All we're gonna do is get someone's flowery rendition of what they're going to charge us to do
yes.
that. Okay.
Yes, and then we can make that decision when those come back, saying, okay, there's this company, they said this is what they're gonna do and it's gonna cost us this, and then we can decide if we wanna go that way. But right now, the motion is just to put an RFP out there to see what we're gonna get from, if we're gonna get any response from any headhunters or consultants or whatever you wanna call them.
Councillor Carey.
My first concern is that we are thinking about not following a policy. That's got me sitting at the edge of my seat. We have a policy in place, we should be following it. If not, if we don't like the policy, maybe bring the policy back so we can rewrite it so that it fits the need of council. That's the first thing. We have a policy, we need to follow our policies and our bylaws. That's just a no-brainer there. My second concern is, how did we even enter negotiations with the MD? Unless I was away or something, is there a council resolution to allow any of us to go and start negotiations with the MD, or how did the MD all of a sudden get involved? I thought we were supposed to act as a council by our resolutions, not alone.
Is that pointed?
I'm hearing that we started talking with the MD. Is it a councillor acting on their own, or was there an actual council resolution to direct administration to?
There was not a resolution.
Because that sends alarm bells to me as well. If we have already discussed and the MD is all of a sudden saying, yeah, they're going to help us out, how did we get to that? It should have been by a council resolution, and it should have been done by administration.
I've heard the question now 3 times, and I know it's directed at me. Okay?
It's open to council.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I might have missed a couple meetings, so that's my question.
On both of those topics, when we discover that we have a policy in place that doesn't suit us, that's when we need to sort of bring it up, and that's why I did. I'm not going to bring up a a policy about how we're gonna hire the next CAO in the middle of doing our financial budget and the other things that we're dealing with. So now we're dealing with hiring a CAO, we're looking at the policies that's in place, we're hearing other recommendations from other municipalities, we're seeing what's happened and what's good and what's not good, right? Our last council meeting, we passed a resolution that says that we didn't even touch base on this, let's hire a CAO from a headhunter thing. We said we were gonna enter into negotiations with, a CAO from another community. And we were looking at interim CAO help, right? Cause there's two things that we're trying to deal with right now. And we're part of intermunicipal groups. Brian and I are part of an intermunicipal group. Today we're at an intermunicipal group, and that this isn't the first time that this intermunicipal group meets in between all of the things that are going on. Everybody in this small community knows what's going on, and I have to say that the county's been really good about just offering support if we wanted it. They're certainly not coming to us saying, hey, we wanna come here and run your town. I think they've been very generous with very simple little offers. If we wanted to consider looking at them for support, they've been very generous with their support. When I was questioning, when I first had a conversation, I talked to the REIB, I talked to the CAO, just in casual conversation based on the fact that we were in meetings together. And I was concerned too. I thought, well, geez, we're the town and they're the county. Should we even enter into anything like that? Should we even consider that? So when I called municipal affairs, I was kind of surprised that they said that is absolutely the thing that they would first recommend as an interim solution, and that they said that many municipalities are going forward with shared CAOs and shared treasurers, shared economic development officers, because they can't afford to hire the cost of a CAO that maybe comes with all the qualifications that some communities are looking for, they can't afford. So they're sharing those costs. So they say instead of jumping right in, that being willing to take a look at the offer and maybe, get some support from a county would be a great alternative for us to not have to rush in and to not be making a quick mistake. So it's not that anybody had any authority to go and negotiate. It's just we are all elected as councillors for this community, and this community doesn't have a CEO, doesn't have a treasurer. And when people come forward and start talking to us about our problems, we have to have answers, as well as some people come forward and offer some suggestions or some solutions, just the same as the Valley View CAO that became available. We knew that he was an option, and you guys pursued that. I mean, it wasn't like they were under council direction, or we didn't make a resolution prior to that offer coming to the table. Then the CAO brought that information back to us and said, yeah, this is an option. This guy's an interim option. I mean, I think it's all of our responsibilities to step up at a time like this and sort of say, what are the options? And I have called Peace River, I have called a few other places to find out how they have done things, how they've dealt with things. I've called other councillors from other communities to find out some of their solutions and some of their issues. And I have to say that after that research, and even talking to municipal affairs, they're not all on side with the headhunter consultant thing being the way to go. They said, make sure you make the right choice for your community. So I don't know when else I'm supposed to bring this up if I'm not supposed to bring it up at a council meeting.
Just to rebuttal that, if the MD brought forth they're offering intermunicipal negotiating, that answers that question. I was just curious as how this all come about. There was
I'm not saying it was part of an agenda, Trevor. It was just
that's
part
not
of
my words,
conversation.
and I'd like to finish my thought. Please, I'll let you speak. Thank you. So as long as it was brought up in an appropriate manner, that's all I was concerned about, because I also had concerns from citizens asking me, well, what's going on? So that answers that question. Thank you very much. The other question is, if we're not happy with the policy before the meeting tonight, last Tuesday we should have been making an RFD to say we need to change the policy to fit the needs. You did lots of work, so therefore last Tuesday when the RFDs were due, maybe have an RFD in place saying, you know what, this policy is not right for this town. Here's some research, talk with the acting CAO, and then we can have a nice frank open discussion with all the facts. It's nice that you did the work. It'd be nice if we all got the same information. That's all I'm asking for, is if there would have been an RFD in place saying that this policy does not fit our town and our needs at the moment. Great, there's some research and maybe we could have changed policy. But as it sits, we have a policy in place, so if you wanna change policy, maybe we rescind, take back this motion and say we wanna rewrite this policy. It's that simple. It's not to cause hard feelings. I'm just trying to get answers so I can answer people as well.
No, if I may, I think and I'm telling you I'm wrong if I am, but because we've had issues in the past where people bring up issues to try to get them off the agenda, and have the information and everything that could have been brought forward to council prior to the meeting, so that we could have had an idea through email, whatever, this is what's coming up on the pipe, I'm putting together an RFD, or what do you think of, so that we have at least an idea of where the councillor or whomever is going and sort of what the thought process is, so that we're ready for a good healthy debate. As it is, it just comes forward and then we get that response. And it's important for us to try to bring forward when we can. And I know the time frame didn't
Do you
really
know, I'm
allow
kind
for
of
that,
tired of
but-
being scolded. I think that, and I
I'm
mean,
not scolding.
I did not think before Tuesday to make an RFD. So does that mean I'm not allowed to make a comment about how I feel about something?
No, but then it does open the door for people to become a little more skeptical or defensive or unsure of the rationale, because there is no rationale, there's no background, and so they get the information put forward to them and they're putting their defenses up going. Where this is coming from, I'm not sure. Maybe we need to improve our communication amongst ourselves within the MGA, but I don't know.
I agree that it would be good to be able to have all the time to be able to remember by, noon on Tuesday a week ago that this needs to be changed, and that our policy that we've never dealt with before, because this is the first time we've had to hire a CAO, that we think, oh, maybe that's something. I actually prefer that we talk about things and we as a council sort of have the opportunity to discuss it and say, because after, if everybody else feels like, oh, well, this is a great policy and there's a lot of reasons why I see a lot of value in this, then yeah, okay, then why go through the process? Why make the CAO even get all the background information and put it in? If we can we not just once in a while have a conversation about a topic and see what the thought is? And if the process is that, yeah, this is a great policy and I'm the only one that has this opinion, well, done deal, right? Like, why go through the process every time to waste people's time? I mean, this is why our agendas are 300 pages long and we don't get out of here until after 11. In some cases, can't we just have that conversation?
It would be better to have that conversation with a notice of motion. So, and a notice of motion is different than an RFD. This is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm working on, there's an RFD coming down the road. And that gives council, we don't debate it, but it gives council an idea of where each of us are coming from. That's just an option. I've mentioned notices of motion before and not one of us has done it. Everybody remembers to get their time for pay in at the right time. Tuesdays, RFD time. Easy. Councilor Carrier?
I'm more than willing to work with Councillor Rose. I'll withdraw my motion so that we can bring back the policy for hiring and firing the CAO. That's something that is more suitable to the needs of the town. I'm willing to do that. It's just, I would like information that she's gotten so I can be better informed, so I can answer the questions that I received. That's all I'm asking for. So I'm willing to work with you. If you want to redo the policy, I'll withdraw my motion that's on the floor so we can reword the policy. It's simple. I don't know why we're getting defensive.
I don't know if we need to withdraw the motion. We need to vote on it.
Brian has a question.
And then if it fails, then we can look at something else. Councilor Nancy?
The motion is fairly simple for a request for proposals. This is gathering some information to find out what it would cost us. In my opinion, we go ahead and do that. This part is very, very simple. Get the information. We know what it would likely cost. We can get some ideas. We're not committed to anything. So for this motion, very, very simple in my opinion. You just go ahead and do it. Maybe it'd be crazy not to do this part of it. I mean, we do have the bigger issue, which is, you know, what are we going to do for an interim CAO? And, I mean, the other issue, that's one, and the other one is, do we want to use the headhunter at the end of the day? So that's another, motion, but we should have the proposals in, so that if we do decide to do a headhunter, we're ready to move on it. If we keep waiting, we're just losing time. So I suggest we move on this one. We need to discuss those other two issues, the policy on whether we use a headhunter, and number two, what are we going to do in the case of an interim CAO? And so I'm not sure if that can be discussed under this part of it at this time. So I don't know if it's another motion, or if we, I suggest that we finish this motion and maybe make another motion dealing with the interim CAO, and we can talk about the, you know, the MDs possibly sharing a CAO for a period of time. So that's my suggestion. Vote on this one, make another motion, and then we go from there.
Well, I was actually going to reiterate the same thing again. The motion is to advertise for an RFP. We're not doing anything with it, we're not deciding we're going that route, but we're just advertising to see what's out there. See what, maybe we won't get a response from any consulting people that say we can help you, I don't know. But the motion is to advertise in an RFP and see what we get, and then we can make that decision at that time if we want to go that route, or change the policy, or look at the other options, whatever. So I think we should vote on this motion and then either make another motion or carry on.
That being said, everybody's had a kick, go ahead.
So if we proceed, how long would the proposals be valid? So if we're talking about looking at something else in the future internally, is this, if we take proposals now, because we do have a proposal, right? That didn't Mayor Cox get us this proposal on May 11th?
I think that was just an email to all of us from that Legacy, is that the one you're talking about?
Proposal for CAO recruitment?
Well, I've never seen that one.
So, I mean, so we have an idea of pricing. I'm just curious, so if we went through this process, would they be valid in 2 months if we decided, okay, we're gonna hire them in 2 months? I guess that's where I'm concerned, is we already have an idea of pricing. We've already sort of felt this out a little bit. We know that there's a firm right here that says, here you go, this is how much I'm gonna charge you. This has already kind of come down the pipe a little bit, so we have that idea. If this is gonna be valid in, 60 days, 90 days, then we can just say, or do we have to resend it out? If we say, okay, we're not gonna use it, we have to resend this out and submit other proposals, or submit a request for other proposals in 2 months, then I feel like we're wasting our time.
I think that can be included in the RFP. We want this to be valid for 2 months or
90
whatever.
days or something like that.
That can be included in the RFP.
Further to that, piece of information you have there, when we talked to Gary Peterson, that was the company that he used in Value. So he said he can go on the internet and find this gentleman, and I contacted him, and then he said, I'll throw something together for you very fast and send it to you. So what you'd be basically looking for in our effort. So that's where that was just information for me to build a request for a proposal.
And just give you an idea of price line and stuff.
Yeah.
Any new discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
I would like a motion, and it's related to this, CAO recruitment, so I'd make a motion off the top of my head that, I'm not sure if it's administration, but council forward a letter to the County of Big Lakes requesting support, or interim CAO support for the town of Hyper. hope somebody got that because I didn't write it down.
Yeah, I did.
But basically, the idea is to use them while we go on our hunt for a full-time CEO.
What was the last bit of your motion?
Forward a letter to the county
Yeah.
of the
Big Lakes.
MD, or the county of Big Lakes,
For-
for interim CAO support for the town of High Prairie.
Yeah.
What about financial treasurer too?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, interim CAO and treasurer support for the town of High Prairie. I'll add that in. That's a good
So
suggestion.
I just wanna make sure I understand your motion. Your motion is to, send a letter asking them for support. And so if Brian needs help, he can phone them, and if the they have treasurer questions, we can
Use
we
their
can
resources.
take advantage of their knowledge on that type of basis, not them coming in, but only when asked. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think we'd have to talk to them about that, but I think number one is we'd have to see if they are interested, because we don't know for sure. We've had, some discussions, but it has to come from their council
Right.
that they would support this. It has to come from their board. So we need to get on that right away and see if they would support it. If they say no, then we're back to square one where we have to come up with another plan. But I think they're, in my opinion, getting their support and their help in this time is our best solution as an interim CAO.
So would you read the motion again, please?
Council Carrier first, and then.
My only concern about voting in favor is this is at what cost? I'd like to see more information brought forth so that we know if there's gonna be costs associated to this. It's gonna have, if there is cost, we're gonna, it's coming from the taxpayers. We already have, Mr. Bartonson acting as CAO at the time. So I'm kind of not at ease just voting for this if I don't know what the costs are or what the implications would be.
Put that in the letter though.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, because we need to know the cost to be able to make a decision. And just like any interim CAO, if it was the CAO from Valley View, there was costs involved. We need to know what those are, but it is the option, right?
So is your motion amended then to include costs or what?
I think we can leave it at that to see if they're interested, and they can, maybe informally, we can ask them to provide costs back. We're just saying, are you guys interested? Would you provide this service?
And at what cost?
And at what cost? That's really what I wanna find out.
Mr. Chair, I really strongly recommend you add at cost too to be inside the motion so that we know that it's gonna be brought back to council so we can see numbers and if they are willing, that is. I'd be more willing to vote in favor of that if I know it was gonna come back to council again so we can see if there was any cost associated first.
Well, if it's all right, I'll amend to add, if they're interested in providing the support and at what cost to the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to add, I know that they have a council meeting tomorrow, so I don't know if we can get on their agenda, but if we can get something to them in the morning, maybe they could add it in, cause otherwise it's gonna be a 2-week wait, and everything just keeps backing up.
What time do they start their council meetings?
10 a.m.
And for me, a 2-week wait gives council here a time to discuss with the municipal affairs to find out other options as well. So I wouldn't be hurt if they didn't get it in time for the agenda, but yeah, I'm not in favor of this motion at this time because there's so many unanswered questions for me. And so again, if these are things that we could have researched and looked at, had more information ahead of time.
I'll just add that if they approve it, we're not back together for another 2 weeks. So
Mhm.
there's
That's
still
fine,
time to look into all of that. Even if we get it in for their agenda and they approve it, we still have to approve the fact that we wanna do it. We don't know what the costs are, so again, it's much like the headhunter. We're gathering some data to help us make a decision. Are they interested? What would the cost be? Here's an option for us. Or maybe it's not an option. Maybe it's an option that they're not interested. Yeah.
And in their advertisement in the Southeast News, I noticed they're only holding one meeting per month for the next 3 months too, so the timelines are gonna be lengthened out.
Councilor Rose.
And just further to that, they run a little less formal of a meeting, so even if you were to make a phone call to say that this is what what we passed last night and we'd like to, we'll provide you a letter. If they had the opportunity, they may still have that opportunity to discuss it and then see whether or not their council is even receptive to the idea and whether they can entertain sort of presenting us an offer and say, here, we can offer you some support with CAO, treasurer, economic development. These are the areas that we have, we have some time and we can offer some support, or maybe their council will turn it down, right? And we'll know right away we have to make another decision to go forward.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Perfect. On we go to 5E, staff. Am I missing something?
That's monthly report, page 40.
Yeah, it's staff and CEO written report, and underneath that is FCSS report.
Ah, there it is. Yes, thank you. So 5E, page 4, CSS monthly report.
Don't we have staff and CAO?
That's after.
Okay.
Councilor Carey.
Make a motion that council receives for information.
Good night. Thank you. Any discussion? It's pretty weighty stuff. They had 13 copies and faxes. It's nice to get the report though.
It's nothing.
No question.
It's too bad they do so much and it's not reflected in the
No.
report.
No.
Yeah.
And we talked about that at the first meeting, about the report tells us nothing.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, thanks.
All those in favor? Carried.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to ask that we have a 10-minute break so we can read the addendum thoroughly before continuing, as it was just handed out prior to the meeting.
Yeah. Certainly can do that. The list must be getting smaller and smaller. Ready to get checked off. I'm gonna take this opportunity to indulge my back.